All right, Mr. Conejo, sir. The floor is all yours. Please go ahead and do what you do, sir.
Okay, this is Conejo coming at you, and I'm going to explain to you guys the concept of how the inmate was first created in between Cheyenne from Bakersfield and Joe Morgan. You gotta understand, Cheyenne was the brain of the Mexican Mafia. Joe was the actual muscle of the Mexican Mafia. And the reason I want to do this because I want to educate society and enough knowledge about prison gangs so that they can talk to their loved ones and use their minds and energy in more positive capacity ways. Because a lot of people are losing their lives in prison. And in my past experience in prison and in the streets and around the Mexican Mafia, the inmate's goal was to control the prison system, state and federal. And federal, it came once they got indicted in the 60s when Campeon, Champ from Hazard, Willie Bobo from Redondo, Old Man Phillip from Clover, Soldier Boy from East Los, and Black Bob and Beto from Bolden, and all them got indicted and went to federal custody. The feds had a rude awakening because there was no organization like the MM. Yes, there was Italian mob, there was other mobs, but not like the Mexican Mafia, because the Mexican Mafia was just ruthless killing machine if you got in their way in any form, any way. And they knew that they had to make a name for themselves in federal custody, because in federal custody, once they got over there, the brothers from the feds were riding over here and calling the brothers in the state and telling them there's nothing but millionaires here. We can control the whole federal system and we'll be set for life. You gotta remember, once you're an Emma member, you can't think about going home. You gotta take that out of your mind. I'm telling the raw, the real. You know what I mean? The Emma's goal was always to control the prison system, state and federal, and the street gangs overall. Because once they took over the state system, the streets belonged to them. And the rules and the concept that they were trying to implicate and the principles that they were trying to implicate was from the Mexica philosophy. Their key was to pierce the hearts of the Sureños to believe and read about the Aztecs and the Mexica and the Chichimex, because the Chichimex, the Aztecs, and the Mayans and all that, they were raised to sacrifice their bodies to the gods. So they knew, the MN knew, that if they can put that concept into the Sureños' belief of the Mexica, the Aztecs, and the Maya, and the Inca, to make them believe that once in a while somebody has to sacrifice for the better of the organization, they knew they can rule anything. Nobody can get in their way. So that's what that philosophy, they pierced the hearts of every Sureño and turned them into Sureño warriors. Before, when I came into the system, it was Sureño soldiers. I came in the 80s, and they were turning it more into the philosophy of Aztecas and the Mayan. They were trying to do in the 60s, but because a lot of brothers didn't know how to read and write, unfortunately, that they had to put a hold on that. And the reason I'm sharing this with you, because I had the privilege of reading some of Cheyenne's journals that he gave to Champ from Hazard. And Champ took him to the feds, and Champ gave a copy of those to Termite from Clover. Because you got to remember, Termite from Clover is one of the most highly intelligent carnales you would ever meet. Unfortunately, they killed him already, but back then, he is very intelligent. He's half Jewish, half Mexicano. That's Alfonso Barrientos. Well, anyways, Campeón knew. Letting Termite read some.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Termite's job was to read some of those journals and actually sell some of those journals and make a movie about them. That was his whole idea. At the same time, get their movie out because when they killed Soldier Boy in Long Park, Duke Mason set up Willie Bogle, Campeon, Black Bob, Phillip, and Chavetas. They set them up with the murder, actually putting boots and walking on blood, every one of them, so they would never get out. Because you got to remember, they took a deal of racketeering. They only had 7 to life. They were going to get out. And Duke Mason declared war against organized crime. At that time, Duke Mason was the governor, and he didn't want them out. And he used that. So when Termite read the whole transcripts, they gave Termite the right and the privileges to turn it and give it to one of the studios like MGM, 21st Century Fox, and make this into a movie because they wanted their movie because none of them were going to get out. You got to remember, all of them got picked up 99 on top of 99 on top of 99 years to life. They never were going to get out. They accepted they weren't going to get out. Well, anyways, back to what I was telling you. They knew that with implicating the Mexica philosophy that they could have Sureños sacrifice themselves for the better good of the organization as long as they gave them the belief that they were going to become a member in the Mexican Mafia. And if not become a member, at least fight as a warrior trying to become one, because their concept was some of them had to get sacrificed. And if you read history of the Aztecs and the Mexica, it's an honor to get sacrificed and pull your heart out of your chest and give it to the gods. And they knew with that order, they can find worthy enough individuals that would want to become Mexican Mafia members and get that black hand on their chest, because like Emmett back then, in every prison system in California, that was a Sureño's goal, to get into the Mexican Mafia, because they knew you get in the Mexican Mafia, you can. This is what you can do. I'm going to give you an explanation what you can do. You control your own Sureños. You create your own crew to collect money, tax money in your neighborhood. Because you got to remember, when you come into the system, you're from a neighborhood. Let's say from Hazard or Clover. Well, once you become a Mexican Mafia member, you become a carnal from the M. Well, that alone gives you the right, with that name alone, to create your own crew, have Sureños under your name, and create your own crew inside the system that start taxing people that are selling drugs in prison and people in the street. Because you got to remember, people are getting out. As you're going along through the years, you got warriors that already are in your crew that are getting out, and they're loyal to you and to the M, but mostly to you. Because when you got a loyal member that's a Sureño that was in your crew, and some other carnal wants to use him, he has to ask that brother for permission and say, hey, can I use Conejo to do this for me out in the street? And it's up to that carnal to say, yeah, you can use him. Or he says, no, I'm not going to get him involved in none of that. I got plans for him. Then he has to respect that. He can't step into that territory. He can't even step into that neighborhood. And you got to remember, every Sureño that gets out, all they're doing is illegal activity to produce finance in any way possible. Either if it's taxing businesses that are out there in the street, like Mexican restaurants, Mexican them trucks that sell food, washer and dryer companies, any company that's in the neighborhood, and they go tell them, hey, look, you're going to pay so much or we're burning you down. A lot of people don't understand that. A lot of those businesses, they're paying rent just to run their business in the neighborhood. Even stores, they're paying rent to the M just so they.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
And that crew, that carnal, with his crew, he can send out personal hits to the street, to people that are loyal to him. And you got to remember, every sureño that gets out, he has to leave that carnal that's part of that crew a phone number we can get in contact with him, and the phone number of his jaina, his lady, because sometimes you can't get a hold of him, and you got to get a hold of him through his lady, because she's always out there in the street, and that carnal can call and tell him, hey, I need to get in contact with your old man, because I haven't heard from him in a couple of days, and if not, he'll send members from Sureño members to go look for him, and 9 times out of 10, when you can't find him, it's because he's busted, or he's dead, or they killed him, and that's what your crew is. Your criminal enterprise. That's your personal group, and you select personal dudes that you grew up with in the system that are willing to sacrifice their body for you. And that's why your best thing to do all the time is get good people under you. That way, your crew will always only have to respond to it. You always have a crew chief. The crew chief is the person that you have in the street that never hardly gets busted. And the reason you have a crew chief is because he's the one who's directly in contact with you, the carnal in the system, because the carnal from there he hardly never gets out. Maybe once or twice in a lifetime he gets out. So he has a crew chief that runs the whole crew. And he has authority as like the carnal to call hits, stop hits, or to have a leader.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
A leadership structure in anything. Hey, Tony, I got to call you back. Okay, this is Cornejo still finishing off my story. I was telling you about the crew chief. He appoints individuals beneath him, because you got to remember, the crew chief has to have individuals beneath him that the brother from the state that's in the Pinta, the Carnal, is sending directly to him to work with him. Sometimes the crew chief doesn't even know them at all, but because the Carnal says, look, I'm sending, I'll give you an example, I'm sending Tony to go work for you. This is his whole info. Then he has to accept him, because he's the vertical leadership of the whole structure, because he is the one who puts individuals beneath him and maintains control of every guy that has been selected. Because sometimes he has to enforce the rules, because sometimes there's guys that come out that don't want to listen to a crew chief. They believe that they're more than a crew chief because they were inside real close with the carnal. Inside the system, he was like his right-hand man in the Pinta. So in the prison, Pinta's prison, in the Pinta. So he feels like he don't need no crew chief, but sometimes he has to enforce the rules because he's in contact directly with the Mexican mafia member, and he tells him, look, tell him that I said he has to listen to you, and he has to. And sometimes you have to set examples, because there's individuals that don't want to listen and listen to these crew chief, or sometimes you tell them, hey, I got to set an example. He's not listening. And a lot of times the brother will tell you, the carnal in the system will tell, well, then sacrifice him. Sacrifice him any way possible then. In other words, use him to a point where he's going to get killed, or he's going to get eliminated, or he's going to come.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Or he's going to come back with life in the system again, and the carnal will handle him himself personally in prison. You got to remember, this whole thing is ran like a clandestine organization. Like MM members, that's exactly what they are, because they got phone numbers of every Sureño. They got phone numbers of your wife. They got phone numbers how to get in contact with you, and they got numbers of like another brother and have another individual crew. And let's say the chief of the crew is not listening to him, then he'll use somebody else to come in and directly take him out the way. and start a whole new crew because his crew is crumbling because let's say somebody gets indicted. And all this is created in a way to protect the MM member that's running that crew. So he will not get indicted. So when they come out with indictments, they don't know. Yeah, they heard his name say Carnal Conejo's running all this, but they don't got no proof because he's never on the phone talking to him. He never, because when he does, he's sending out orders with people that are getting out of prison or on a burner phone. And he's not really talking about too much. You're talking through codes, and the codes are you got to learn Nawa. I don't know if a lot of you people understand what Nawa is. Nawa means is Nahuatl language. It's the Aztec language, and you got to understand certain words that are said, key words to grow in the organization. That's what you need to do. You need to study. It's not easy. People think it's easy. You just got to be a killer. You come. No, it's not like that. You got to specifically study Mexican, Nahua, dictionaries, language, and the way you talk, especially with a certain carnal of the Mexican mafia, because their whole goal is they set up this whole individual structure like a ladder to protect him so he will not get indicted when, let's say, somebody gets killed or they want to racketeer him. It's hard for them to understand what brother's the one who did what. If you see a lot of cases in the street that happen now, when they racketeer somebody, 9 times out of 10, they're only racketeering one brother, and there's like 10 of them involved, but they can't racketeer everybody because they don't got enough evidence on them, because that's the way they structured themselves, and they structured themselves to collect taxes from out there, all the rents of the drugs, all the illegal activity, drug running, now smuggling aliens from across the border. Anything you can think of that's going to create money, we're involved. And the reason I share all this with you is because La M can easily influence you to come into their circle and suck you in. That's what it was created for. And I share this with you so I can give you enough knowledge so you won't get raked into this vacuum of trying to of them putting the concept of your mind of a false belief. It took me many years to realize this. And the reason I tell you because I'm upset because I was sucked into this. And look at me, I'm doing life. And I'm trying to save a lot of you kids out there to not make that wrong decision and get sucked into this vacuum of trying to become a Mexican mafia member, La M, La Mano Negra. Because this criminal activity can suck you in real easy, and the name, just the name itself can suck you in to the point where you start thinking that, hey, and when you come into a neighborhood, hey, what's up, Cornel? What's up? Everybody's showing you respect. The girls are coming at you and everything. Dudes are showing you respect, giving you drugs. You see how you come into inside any business or whatever, and they respect you. And that easily can influence you because the respect, it motivates you. That's what happened with me. I'm just giving you an example of what happened to me. Because all I can use an example of me and what the concept of Cheyenne and Joe Morgan, what they were using when they first created it. Look at this. Just think about it. They got together in Versailles and Tracy and said, hey, look, we can create this La M, La Mano Negra, and they got the concept from the Italians, because that's where the Mano Negra first was created from the Italians up there in New York. And they said, we can enforce it on it. We'll create a monster. Once we get organization and we're running everything, then we start getting finance. And that's what they did. Look how big it is now. It's still to this day running. And it was created in the 1960s. Just think about it. And the reason I tell you all this, because I don't like to sugarcoat nothing. I try and tell you the true and the raw. But at the same time, I'm trying to help you change your life because it's not worth it. Because look at me. I've been in here since 1984. And I'm still in prison. And I get mad because I haven't got out. And remember, now that we're talking about being in here for life, Remember, anything you can help me out with, because I'm going to be going to board pretty soon. You could donate $1, donate $2. This is the reason I do this too, to help you out, so you can help me. Anything you can donate to my Cash App, all it is the money sign, and all it is Free Conejo. FREECONEJO. That's it. You give $1, $2 on your phone, all you gotta do is punch it in and say, you know what, I'm gonna give them $1, $5. It adds up. So when I go to board, I can hire an attorney and I can get out. And this is my goal that I want to do when I get out on the streets. I want to be able to go to juvenile halls, YAs, and talk to individuals so they can change their life. Because when I was in YA and I was in the system in prison, and I would come in the prison 2 system to help people change their lives, because when I was in here, there was nobody to help guide me to change my life. You know what it was? There was individuals guiding me to make a weapon and how to defend myself. And don't let nobody else know that. Because back in these people, if you let yourself, I used to walk around with a weapon everywhere I went. And I'm not proud to tell you, but I did. I used to wrap a weapon every time I went in the shower, every time I went to shower, every time I went to school, every time I walked the yard, I had one strapped on me. Or I would tie it around my waist, but I would always have one, because I said, they ain't never going to catch me off guard. And there was a couple times that they patted me down, COs, but those COs been around, and they caught me with a weapon, and they took it from me to get out of here, youngster, because they knew back then there wasn't too many youngsters in Old Folsom. Everybody that was there was over 25 to 30 years old, up to 50 years old. It was nothing but older people. And I knew, I said, man, ain't nobody going to catch me off guard. And I'm not going to lie, I was scared to death. But at the same time, fear is what makes you do a lot of things. Fear would make you go stab somebody, make you do whatever you needed to do, go attack somebody, go beat somebody up for landing, because I knew that they were the muscle, and I knew that if I'm going to be in here, I'm not going to be somebody that's going to get run over and get. No, I said I'm going to be one of them, and that's what I was. And I was one of them. And I'm not proud to say it, but that's what I was, because I learned a long time ago that either you're going to get a dog-eat-dog world, either you're going to get stepped on, or you're going to be doing the stepping on people, and that's the way it was. There was people that were paying for protection. They were extorting people. They were extorting people's property. They were even extorting people's families in the street. That's one of the biggest mistakes people came in and made. Youngsters came in and they started talking about their family, that they own this, they own that, and guess what happened? They'll assign somebody like me and Vampiro, or me and Termite, or somebody, and say, go follow him, learn everything you can learn about him. And once we learned everything we can learn about him, later on we'll send somebody from the crew over there to start taxing that business and telling them, if you don't pay, your kid's going to get killed in here. And that's the way it was. We would use that as a strategy to learn about your history, your family's business, because later on, your family was paying taxes to us, and you didn't even know it, because we would tell them, once you tell them that you're paying us taxes to the Mexican mafia, and we find out, we're taking them out. And that's what they would do. And in your family wouldn't say nothing. They were just sending 1,000 every week. 1,000 every week coming, and you're in prison thinking, I didn't know my family's paying any money. But that's only if you weren't involved in the circle around the people of the inmate. If you were just a Sureño that just wanted to do his time, because there's a lot of Sureños coming in and just wanted to do their time, but you had to do something. You had to either hold weapons, carry weapons or cook food, or hold things. Yeah. They respected that, but you had to do something. Everybody had to do something, even the Christians. I hate to tell you, back in the days, when a Christian came and he came and told me, I'm Christian, I don't want to do anything. No. There was no such thing like that. They would tell me, get him out the way. and you end up getting stabbed or beat up and get out the way. And most Christians knew that. So what did they do? They were willing to hold weapons. They were willing to transport weapons. They were willing to send kites whenever they needed. You could trust them. And you got to remember, a lot of the people that were Christians back then, the officers would put them like in curtain jobs. And that's where we needed them at, so they can relate messages to us. Who's coming in? Who's leaving? What are the officers doing? What cells they're going to hit? Who's in the logbook that their cells are going to get searched? Things like that. And they had to become callous when they didn't want to because they were Christians. But that's the way it was. It wasn't like now. And the reason I share all this with you, because I'm telling you the raw, the real. I'm not playing. I'm not sugarcoating it. I'm telling you how it is. The inmate is a cold-blooded machine, and it is. People think it's not a. People think it's an organization machine. When I got to federal custody, and I seen millionaires walking with us in the yard, oh my God! I said, oh yeah, I'm gonna make all kinds of money right here, because you got to remember when you got muscle and you got organization, that muscle will turn that into finance. Finance, you start
You have 60 seconds remaining.
raking in